the Overman Warrior Podcast.
King Ahaz did evil in the sight of the Lord. He rejected God, embraced idolatry, and led Judah into ruin. I will sacrifice to the gods of Damascus. But they were his ruin and the ruin of all Israel.
Hi, Rich Hoffman here. I was talking the other day about a couple of obvious Lakota Levy supporters who saw me, recognized me outside Mustang Sally's in Liberty Center shopping complex in my neighborhood. And they let me know that they weren't happy. They moved from, I think it was the East Coast. It was a comment. I think it was New Hampshire. And they moved to Liberty Township with certain expectations. And my comment back to them was, well, you moved to my backyard and you brought your garbage with you and you expected to change the area and region to your liking. You're moving from some place that you messed up and you're coming to a place and bringing a lot of your garbage with you. And you don't like, not a lot of people wear cowboy hats and dress the way I do in Butler County anymore like they used to. But again, I think one of the comments was made about the Bible Belt types. Well, why did you move to the area where Bible Belts were kind of a thing, where people often go to church on Sundays and have Christian origins? Did you expect that you were just going to show up with your Lego presents, and I call them Legos because that's how they look? You would show up and all of a sudden change everything to your way of thinking, the thing you left from. It's kind of a ridiculous statement. And the comment bothered me in more ways than it doesn't bother me when people think of me so much as what they articulate. And we're seeing a continuation because I've been talking about it a lot with my book, The Politics of Heaven. And I've had to explain it over and over again. And one of the themes of that book is the reason why people have been prone to human sacrifice. And this came to my mind because we're also in graduation season. I'm not particularly fond of graduation ceremonies for kids. I think parents do a bad job with their children, especially in modern times. And the context for that statement is 200 years after King Solomon. Now, I'm very critical in my book, The Politics of Heaven, of King Solomon, how he sacrificed to one of his wives, because one of his wives, he had thousands of wives, a lot of concubines, over 1,000 wives, hundreds of concubines, and they all worshiped different gods. And back in the day, before the Bible was the most published book in the world, when it was just kind of a ragtag group of pursuers of justice that didn't like Roman occupation of the land of Canaan during the Second Temple period, and even the First Temple period, 1,000 years before that, before there were religious contemplations connected to Yahweh and the Ten Commandments, there were a lot of gods in the region. A lot of gods, Moloch being one of the big, Baal being the big villain of the Bible. People talk about Satan and Lucifer and all these kinds of characters, but it was Baal and Moloch and Ishtar, Astarte, those types of gods and goddesses that were heavily sacrificed to. And secular society doesn't like to talk about it. But being a lover of biblical archaeology like I am, there are lots of sites that have been discovered in the Holy Land that paid lots of reverence to human sacrifice. And when we talk about burnt offerings, when you talk about burnt offerings at the temple, often what you would do is you would take a goat or a cow, a heifer, red heifer, perfectly endowed, and you would slit its throat, bleed it out, kill it, and then you would cut up the body and offer the flesh as a burnt offering to some god, even to Yahweh. And the hope was that you would gain some political advantage, or maybe you might make it rain. when I talk about not having a whole lot of reverence for Native people. When you talk about Native Americans, indigenous people as they're always called, there's a lot of issues with that. They had religious practices that embodied a lot of the rituals that you saw in the land of Canaan, the kind of land that was Yahweh wanted to have conquered because he wanted to destroy the rival deities. Now, there's a lot, I think, to talk about in regard to why Yahweh or not Baal, or why some of these Molech or Astarte or some of these other gods, why you wouldn't pay reverence to them. Why was Yahweh so insecure? And then we built the Bible around him. Jesus called him the Father when he was doing his teaching, so we've naturally assumed Yahweh as kind of the creator of the universe and a character not to be contemplated or deterred from a single authority. You have to understand the temple period, and King Solomon had betrayed Yahweh in ways. He was son of David, King David. This is the line of Jesus that would eventually emerge. And God was pretty mad at David for betraying, acting immorally in a lot of ways. And Solomon was not exactly a figure of great reputation. He was given all the benefits that you would expect, but as a king, he failed. God, Yahweh, was not happy about it, and he condemned his lineage thereafter. All the children of Solomon, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, all the way down to Ahaz. So we know in 2 Chronicles 28:3, it says, this is how far the people of Solomon fell, the descendants of him. Direct descendants. These are the kings, not to mention the common people. But that Ahaz burned his children in the fire in the valley of Hinnom. And so when you, what we're saying when we burn his children, that's a burnt sacrifice. It was quite common to the people of the multi-deities, not Yahweh. That was mainly animal sacrifices, but people actually sacrificed their children. So when I go to some of these graduation ceremonies and I listen to the Lego women, the Levy supporters, the butt to shoulder ratio that looks like Lego blocks, when they say, you Bible belters, they actually don't like the Christian sentiment, and they moved to the region knowing that there was a Christian base here, and their intent was to change it. And they want a secular teaching in the schools, and they bring all this garbage with them and expect us just to say, hey, we're cool with it. Come in here and destroy what we like about our community and love about our community, and destroy our children. Yeah, we're all for that Pride Month. We're for transgendered bathrooms. Yeah, right. And then they get mad because they're like, you Bible thumpers, you nasty Rich Hoffman, you're anti-child. You wear your cowboy hat around in a community. I'm trying to come here and spend some money, and I don't want to see you cowboy hat Bible thumpers run around that are anti-child. Well, let me tell you what anti-children are, and I see it at graduation ceremonies all the time. The same Lego moms are out there praying their young daughters in much the way that kings like Ahaz, just 200 years removed from King Solomon, from the height of the Jewish presence in Jerusalem, the height of their power, just 200 years removed. Often, yes, adults do it all the time. They sacrifice their children. Abortion is part of it. I would say a human sacrifice cult. Very similar to what you saw in the land of Canaan and all over the world. It's quite prevalent, human sacrifice, and this desire to appease higher powers with sacrificing your children, your firstborn or whatever. And at graduation ceremonies, everybody's always saying, well, where's your kid going to go to school? What are they going to do? What sacrifices have you made to appease the spirits of the universe. And being a person that likes history, that's the context I see and listen to these conversations. And I see the same Lego moms that was upset with me for wearing my cowboy hat in front of Mustang Sally's at Liberty Center, because she knows from all the videos and the pictures that get circulated around that I'm that guy that stands against the school levies, for their free babysitting service, where you throw infinite amounts of money at them, at these public teachers, so that they can drop their kids off and go pursue careers. And and I say all the time, I don't think those parents love their children any more than Ahaz loved his children. What made Ahaz as king of Judea at the time? Just 200 years after his great-great-great-great-grandfather. There might be a few more greats in there, but just 200 years after Solomon's death, the Second Temple period, before Nebuchadnezzar came and destroyed the first temple. It was there for everybody to see and glorify in. The Holy of Holies was pretty much intact as it was during the days of Solomon, and as King David had bought it as a threshing floor. And they built the temple around it for the purpose of highlighting the Holy of Holies, the Ten Commandments, the Ark of the Covenant, direct commandments from Yahweh, God, to have a civil society. Just a few hundred years removed from that kind of highlight society, you had Ahaz out there sacrificing his children, many children, not just one, children plural. In Chronicles 2:28-3, Ahaz burned his children in the fire in the valley of Hinnom. So what they would do is they would take the children, and usually there's a statue of Baal or Moloch, and you would lay the children across its arms, outstretched arms, the statue, the deity, and it might already be hot and the kid is already burning when you lay them in there. Right? And this is terrible, but this happened. This is common, a common occurrence, and I will argue that the same mentality is present in today's liberal society among Democrats. Every time they advocate for abortion, any abortion advocate, or these people who, when you see them at graduation ceremonies, I'm sending my kid to the latest woke institution to learn wokeism so that they can be sacrificed to the altars of some liberal corporate mentality and advance liberal causes, Democrat causes, because people have to make a living and you have to adhere to these pronouns in order to do it. So and if you want the degree, you got to adhere to the liberalisms. I lived on UC's campus for over a year in the 90s, and I remember very well, and it wasn't even that bad then. This was during Clinton's presidency. It was considered to be pretty normal back then, and I thought it was grotesquely liberal. That was UC, and all the big state colleges have gone, serious woke, and you see these parents parading their kids around, proud that they're sending their kids to these places. And whenever I hear that kind of stuff, I think of this is why they don't like the Bible. That's why they make fun of the Bible Belt. You cowboy hat wearing, gun-toting Bible thumpers. Well, yep, me, guilty on all charges. They don't like the references to the Bible because they're guilty of a lot of bad things. And in this case, this is 2 Chronicles 28:3. A king of Judea, a direct descendant of Solomon, was burning his children to the altars of Moloch. Burning his children alive. And you know what they would do? The Jewish people, and this is for all the people that are anti-Jew right now, the Jewish people would beat on drums. This is the same stuff you see in native cultures all across the Pacific regions, where cannibalism is prevalent. I always think of New Guinea when I think of those kinds of cultures. There are headhunters of South America, Central America, the Americas, Aztecs, Mayans, and yes, the indigenous people of North America. I had a lot of controversy years ago when I wrote a screenplay and I paraded around to film festivals, and it got a lot of attention. Got attention to A-list types who were considering optioning it. And, I've had a lot of opportunities for that kind of thing to take off. And it was called The Lost Cannibals of Cahokia. And I did it because a lot of people don't know about this, the city of Cahokia, just outside present-day St. Louis. It was prevalent during the same time period as the Aztecs were doing their thing across the Gulf of America in Mexico. Obviously, I think they were all trading partners. And we saw part of the Aztec Empire migrating up the Mississippi. Mississippian culture, human sacrifice was prevalent, very common. And I did a whole screenplay, a story, an action-adventure story that was about real archaeology, anthropology, discovered at Cahokia. If you drive into St. Louis, you look on the left, on where you're still in Illinois, going through East St. Louis, you'll see on your left a giant pyramid structure. It's an ancient mound. It's got the same basic floor layout as the Great Pyramid by circumference. It's not quite as tall, but it's big. It has a lot of mass to it, and it's an earthwork. It's not made out of rocks and stones. It was made out of earth. But it's a pyramid, and it's along the same kind of mentality. And in the mounds surrounding the central metropolis, that at the time, 1300 AD, it has many people in it as London did. So it was a huge metropolis. That's what you don't hear about when you talk about hunters and gatherers and trying to attach that to the indigenous people. The culture of Cahokia embodied themselves in human sacrifice all the time. And they found a lot of kings who had their wives killed to go along with them into the afterlife, where they get these beliefs. Same place that that we have these chronicles that are very well laid out in the Bible. 2 Chronicles 28:3. Ahaz was wrapped up in sacrificing his children to appease. I mean, he's a king, and he's a descendant of Solomon. He had a more direct relationship than anybody else to Yahweh, and here he is trying to appease all these stupid Canaanite gods. Moloch being one of them, Baal being a big one, and these kings always falling from Yahweh into the worship appeasement of these kings with human sacrifice. And not just any human, but their own children. And yes, that culture is very much prevalent today. And I saw in the eyes of the lady that said something, not just because she said something to me. I get approached a lot walking around. A lot of people recognize me because of these videos, because of the blog, because they know that I'm the levy guy, the guy against the school levies, against Lakota schools. And they move from all over the place to try to raise taxes and bring all their liberalisms with them. And I call them the Lego people, because they have the same body shape as Legos. And then I go to some of these graduation ceremonies, and you hear these moms, these Lego moms, saying, "Oh, aren't you proud? We're trying to appease these spirits so we can make a few extra bucks. We want good luck to come our way. We want to hit the slot at the casino. Our portfolio, our hedge fund portfolio is doing well. We are willing to sacrifice our children so that we can have a good life." When I think of those kinds of people, if you know the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the Ferris Bueller's Day Off parents are very much like these people that I'm talking about. It was a funny thing in the 80s, and it became a common thing in the 90s, and the 2000s, 2010s, and present day. The criticism of those types of out-of-touch helicopter parents isn't there like that, because there's a lot of them. So by the sheer masses, they have voted themselves kind of into power. And it's easy if you have a reference point, such as you get from 2 Chronicles 28:3, you have context to why what they do is evil. And they don't like the Bible because it gives a reference point for why we can cast judgment against those Lego moms, those Lego parents, the Lego helicopter parents that are perfectly willing to sacrifice what's best for their kids, so they can get a leg up in life. They have no qualms in sacrificing their children, just like Ahaz did. He burned his kids alive. Now this is the part. This goes back to the whole Jewish thing. What did the Jewish priests do while they were sacrificing these kids? This is why Yahweh was mad at his people, the Jewish people. Why were what did the people do? The priests, they beat on drums so that the parents would not hear their kids be crying as they were being burnt alive. Now we think about kids being burned at the stake during the Protestant Reformation, where the kings of England were trying to fight the Pope to hold power. The Pope wanted power over the entire dominion. They wanted to be the main guy. Kings were trying to hang on to it, and along comes the Protestants. Some of the king's wives, Henry VIII comes to mind, where they were falling for this revolution, just like Solomon's wives were encouraging him to worship other deities. The Protestant Reformation was encouraging people to have alternatives to a religious authority under the king. So they executed and killed a lot of those, even the wives of the king, for bringing competing ideas into it. And they burn them alive sometimes. Thomas More comes to mind. He was very well respected by the king, and because he got caught up in the Protestant movement, they burn him alive. And that's goes back to this reverence that was inherited by the Canaanites, where the Jewish people fell into it. The corrupt priests found they couldn't live with the Ten Commandments and fell for evil at a time, and they started to try to appease these evil deities. Now, who are these deities? I think there's a lot to be explored as far as those belief systems. They were so strong that people were willing to, you say that I love my children, I gave birth to these children, I sacrificed my life to these children, and then they become these Lego block people, and they're in their 40s and 50s, and they resent their children for holding them back from life. Yeah, you don't think they'll sacrifice them to get some good luck? You bet they will, and they do it to this very day. And I see a lot of those types of Ahaz characters from 2 Chronicles 28:3 in the levy support people, the school levy people, and that's why I hate them. I absolutely despise them because they fall for evil every time. And yes, they are willing to sacrifice their children. And if you want proof of it, just go to any graduation ceremony in May and June of any year that is happening. You'll see all those Lego moms parading their kids around. Yes, I'm sending my little girl, my pretty little girl, off to the meat market of these liberal institutions to learn Democrat politics, garbage, and ruin them for life. Sacrifice them to some other guy that might come along and taint them forever. Bring a bunch of garbage into their lives, and our parents willing to sacrifice their children? Yes. Ahaz was willing to do it. King of Judea, and a direct descendant of Solomon, and he had all the benefits in the world to do all the right things. He could have, should have, would have, but he didn't. Didn't have the courage to stick with it, and they were sacrificing his own children to get good luck in life, and that Yahweh found that reprehensible, and it's well chronicled in the Bible. That's why the Bible is important. It's in 2 Chronicles 28:3, if you want to look it up. And when I see the Lego moms out there that are advocating for school levies, sacrifice your kids to institutions of Democrat politics and pay infinite amounts of tax money because we moved in from some weird East Coast destination to corrupt and taint you. And we're going to make you feel bad because we're going to try and make you feel bad because you're wearing a cowboy hat. And we didn't move here for that. We moved here to bring the East Coast with us. And we want California deportees as our neighbors, not cowboy people who used to live here for decades and decades. And remember when it was all farmland full of cows and horses. We came here to change it. Just like it just took 200 years to go from the height of Jewish power at the First Temple period and the fall all the way down to where Ahaz, direct descendant of Solomon, was sacrificing his own children to Moloch, burning them alive and beating drums so that the parents wouldn't get second thoughts by hearing the kids scream for mercy as they were being burned alive. We talk about a lot of people being burnt in the Middle Ages at the stake. A lot of that stuff started with burnt sacrifices, and it started with this kind of ritual sacrifice that a lot of secular people don't want to admit happened because it takes away from their anti-Christian message. Bible thumpers. Well, when you move into a Bible thumping area, intending to change it, don't be surprised when you're going to be frustrated and when people don't like you for it. And we didn't invite your Lego selves to come and bring and raise our taxes and sacrifice children to your pagan deities. That's not, we're going to find you reprehensible and we're going to fight you. And you're going to not have your feelings feel too good. And if you want to have people worshiping at your feet when you go to the graduation ceremonies and say, hey, I'm sending my kid to some liberal institution out there, be proud of me. I'm sacrificing my child. Aren't you proud of me? Just like everybody else did. I call them normies, the Lego types. They're the normal types. They've become the normal types. And they are very secular. They've been secularized in anti-Christian sentiment over the years. They accept high taxes as part of a way to fund these Democrat politics, and I find it all reprehensible, and I don't like it. And this Lego lady probably didn't expect me to get, to see my anger. But I absolutely despise those kinds of people, and if you confront me, I'm going to let you know it. It's the way it goes. I don't like you. You don't like me. I don't like you. That's for sure. And I have no reservations about letting you know it. Not at all. People like that are why you go back and read the Bible, and especially 2 Chronicles 28:3, where members who are supposed to be very adherent to Yahweh were burning their own children because they wanted Baal, and Moloch to look favorably upon him. And even Solomon broke his covenant with Yahweh to sacrifice 5 grasshoppers, according to the Testament of Solomon, which is in a cult book. Sacrifice 5 grasshoppers to Moloch to appease one of his nearly 1,000 wives, because she was just across the valley, across from his temple to Yahweh. He had a temple to Moloch, and he sacrificed 5 grasshoppers, and that's a huge sin. And for that kind of thing, God said, you're out. I cast you out. You've abandoned my teachings, and I'm done with you. I remember when Trump said, and this is very relevant. Trump, why people say, and I've met the Trump kids a couple different occasions. Why are the Trump kids so well behaved when all the liberals like Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom and a lot of their Democrats? Look at Joe Biden. Look at Hunter Biden. Forget about what you know about the laptop for a minute. What a derelict. Those people, those kids, they were sacrificed to the pillars of liberalism. And they are literally the same thing that Ahaz did was done by them when these guys were power climbing. Kamala Harris slept her way to the top. They sacrifice. They say all the buzzwords. They sacrifice their kids to Democrat politics. Back in the day, it was to Moloch, Baal, anti-Christian sentiment, anti-First Temple period justice. Yeah, they turn out to be disastrous. And Trump always said, hey, if you come home with a tattoo, or you do drugs, or you make a mess of your life, I'll cut you out. I'll drop you like a dog. And all the kids grew up and behaved pretty well because he very much had a no-nonsense attitude towards his own children, turning into messes. And if your children stray away and turn into messes, maybe you got to cut them off and don't feed it. Don't adhere to them just because of your flesh and blood. Don't let Democrats steal your people and drag you with it. It's not a good thing to do. Because they definitely, the Lego people, the Lego levy supporters, they definitely have been, they are in the modern context, doing just as Ahaz did in 2 Chronicles 28:3, where he burned his own children alive. They drowned out their screams with drums while the kids were screaming in fire. They beat drums so that people wouldn't hear it. Aztecs were doing the same kind of thing. The people of Cahokia did the same kind of thing. And it's been a part of all these secular human sacrifice cults all over the world, these earth worshipers, the Democrats, the progressives, all these people who are all for earth worship at the expense of killing humans to do it. This is the kind of people we're talking about. And those are the kind of people out there pushing for higher property taxes, for bigger government in Ohio, and for your local school levies. These are the people who are out there, the mad moms, the people who want the free babysitting service off your property tax. And they're out there harassing you because they don't like the cowboy hat. They moved here expecting to change the region, not to adhere to its country Bible Belt roots. And they're frustrated with it. So they can be frustrated. Tough toodles. And make sure it's often here, share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you haven't read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. And there's always a Bible verse for everything. In this case, when you meet people like that, just think of 2 Chronicles 28:3. And think of good old Ahaz, 200 years after Solomon. And you're looking at a direct descendant doing the same things for the same reasons, sacrificing their own children for the same reason he did. That was weak, immoral, corrupt, and it's very much alive today among our youth. I would say most parents do not love their children. They're willing to sacrifice them if it gives them an easier life in a heartbeat. Sometimes that easier life just comes from social protocols of appeasement, where you might get invited to a wine tasting with them, and they'll be your friends, and that kind of social justification. A lot of people sell out everything for it, which makes them extremely weak. And I despise those kinds of people for all the reasons they hate the Bible, and I'm good with it. I think those kinds of Bible verses are why people like that used to be kept in check, and the more they push the Bible out of contemporary society, the more of them have been made available and feel that they can say things on a normal street and castigate people who are otherwise showing that they have moral judgment over the immoral and corrupt and unrighteous. The Bible, the reason I love it is it's full of righteous pursuits, and the world would be a lot better off if it had shared those values. And the Bible's the best way to get it. And that's why people like those Lego people hate it. And I think it's the best thing in the world. Everybody should read it, and especially refer to 2 Chronicles 28:3 when you're dealing with the Lego levy supporters of your local school district. They're the ones that want big taxes for their free babysitting services, and they're willing to sacrifice their children for all the same reasons that everybody else always has, hoping to get a leg up in life. And yes, they're very evil and very corrupt. Very much so. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon.
Coming soon. The politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.